Good morning. Wish you Happy New Year. We are starting a new year with the COVID. We almost 1 year were not able to have physical classes, but I think from today onwards, IAS is commencing the physical classes, even though students have not turned up knowing the holiday period. So the New Year holiday period is still on till tomorrow. So we'll have the physical presence of the students maybe next week onwards. So those have been following the classes. Where do we stand now? Actually, we were on the first topic, we did the investment appraisal and the corporate finance risk management framework. That was the one we discussed. Then we moved on to the valuation chapter or business valuation chapter. As I mentioned, this is a topic very important from the financial management syllabus as well as from the finance field. If you take you will see that you are grooming yourself to a next level. And it's actually, generally we think that chartered accounting is accountant job. Accountant, you are going to become accountant. Even though you call it just accountant, it's the initial stage of your career, you will be an accountant. Later on, you will see that you are not in that accountant per se, the job role. You will move into finance manager, financial controller, CFO, finance director, CEO, group CEO, like that you can grow. So that the career you would see over the period is very, very broader. It's up to you who decides where do I stop or where I want to confine myself. So what I would like to say, this chapter, financial management overall syllabus, will definitely help you to understand the overall organization, and more than just understanding, because everybody works in the company will understand the company to some extent, but you would be able to see the overall impact, overall environmental impact, as well as the each and every function contribution, and if they don't contribute, what will happen to the organization. This will be clearly understood by the finance people. So we have the advantage, even though we may not be the CEO at the beginning, but you have all the potential to become a CEO of a company, because you will understand company more detail than anybody else. It's not about just accounting, record keeping. I'm not talking about that. That is actually bookkeeping. I don't think none of you all will be in that level. Even if you are now in that level, maybe 2-3 years later, you won't be doing that job. So you will be doing far superior in terms of the work nature over the period of time. It's not going to be the accounting. Accounting will be mostly now done by the IT section. Right? IT will take care of your accounting. You will have few people who will enter the transactions. After entering, that will look after by the IT. So IT will give you the account set. So all of us have to understand that it's not we becoming accountant mean we are going to do the accounting. True that we have a percentage of job will be also to look after the accounts. Because even if you become CEO, you will take accounts and look at it, how your performance is. So that is the record keeping side of it, and then you will look at it. But what I would like to say, all of us, like you, me, everybody in that chartered profession, we all have unlimited capacity to grow in our career, right? So I would like to make a note on that to tell you that it's not just going to be an accounting role. It's going to be a far superior role you will be playing in an organization. And it's understood that if your scope is going to be like that, your earnings also unlimited. So whether you are in Sri Lanka or any other part of the world, you would see that you are going to make a lot of money and a lot of recognition, a lot of exposure, all you will get. So it's not a secret about it. So why the people say that chartered is difficult? Because once you become chartered accountant, your growth is unlimited. Please make sure that you understand that terminology, unlimited, because it's you decide ultimately. You realize that at a point of time, what I want. Should I stop it here? Should I go beyond that? It's your choice. So that option is available with this profession. So please, even though it's difficult, I know there are a lot of people complain, right? The exams we can't get through, we have to, couple of times we have to do each paper. These all happens, true. But that is the reason why it's so much valuable. So much it's valuable. Right? So people, I don't want to criticize about other professional accounting professions, but only trying to tell you that this is so valuable because it's not easy. It's not easy in the sense, it's not the way you think, okay, you start today, 3.5 years, I am qualified chartered accountant. That won't happen to everybody. If everybody is happening, then there is a value also accordingly get reflected. You don't see the same value. It's like a degree. You say degree you join, 4 years, 3 years, you will become a degree holder. Whether you get merit or first class, second class, or you just pass as average, that can vary, but you are a degree holder. But chartered, you don't have that guarantee as such. You may or may not be. But what is important, those who succeed by completing, going through all the hardships, are going to conquer the world. You are going to conquer the world because you will see a different world from your point of view. You will definitely have that opportunity. So I'm just trying to tell you the thing because it's important all of us know that value of it. Because I have seen, I have heard, right, the new generation, I'm doing lecturing for 17 years, yes. Tomorrow it's my 17-year completion, right? So what I would like to say, like, I have seen many people, many young students and parents, they all think that it has to be faster. It has to be faster. True, it can be faster, then the value also be like that. Something which is difficult, very difficult, you have value. If you just get it, you don't have value. Now you pay 10 lakhs to any private universities where they are offering degrees, you can get definitely a guaranteed degree. Guaranteed degree. You would spend 10 to 15 lakhs, right, or 1 to 1.5 million, and you get your degree, for sure. So if you think, I get a degree, yeah, true. If you are extra skillful, talented, you will grow faster, even with that degree. But if you take chartered, even if you are doing what you call the average work, still you are very much recognized, very much well looked after in terms of financial, and opportunities are unlimited again. So please be understanding, this is a qualification which is so valuable. It's difficult, like you are at final level, you don't have many papers to do, you have limited number of papers to do. So you come a long way. So all of us have to put yourself into your mind that somehow I will finish it. Somehow I will finish it. It's difficult, I know. I know the past, what I come through. But once I finished, it is a big difference in my life. For individual I'm talking, your life will be totally different once you become qualified. Right, so it's something, a message you need to keep in mind starting this year, so that you will, by next year, you are a chartered accountant, for sure. So you have to have that objective in your mind and work towards it. Moving from there, business valuation, we looked at various methods of valuation, starting from net assets. Then we said dividend cash flows method. There are 3 subtypes we looked at. Dividend cash flow method. Then we looked at price earning ratio, how to value a company based on price earning ratio. Then price to book value ratio. Then we moved on to the comprehensive method of valuation, which is free cash flows. So under free cash flows, we said there are 2 types of free cash flows. One is free cash to equity, free cash to firm. So what is free cash flow? Those are the cash flows available in the company for the respective stakeholder. It can be shareholders or shareholders and debt holders. So we discussed last Saturday, free cash flows to equity holders. Free cash to equity holders. In that, we said there are 2 types. Free cash to equity holder are 2 types. One is free cash flows to equity when the company levered. Levered means company borrowed money. Because any organization, in order to run the business, can take money from shareholders and can take money from debt holders. Debt holders can be banks or debenture holders or any other financial institution. So you can borrow money in the organization to run the business. So when you say you have borrowed money, you are called leveraged company or geared company. Geared company. You are commonly, you will use hereafter, geared company or leveraged company. So we looked at last class, if you are leveraged company, how to calculate the value of the company. If it is unlevered company, how to calculate value of the company, value of equity under free cash flow method, which we have discussed. Now we look at free cash flows to firm. Free cash flows to firm. Last class what we looked at, free cash flow equity holders. That means what is available to the equity shareholders. So we valued and said this is the value of equity based on free cash flow method. Now we look at free cash flows to firm. When I say firm, this belongs to shareholders and debt holders. These are two people who will be in your subject financial management throughout. You will be talking about these two people regularly. Shareholders, debt holders. There are two people. They are must. In your film, they are must. Shareholder and debt holder. So these two people, whatever the cash flow we have left in the organization, for them is called free cash to firm. So based on that cash flows, we value the company and say, this is the value of, not the equity, value of equity plus debt. Value of equity plus debt. So can we write down the way of calculating free cash flow firm? Before that, write down a word. This is the cash flows. This is the cash flows. This is the cash flows under the heading free cash flows to firm. Free cash flows to firm. Please take down. This is the cash flows freely available. This is the cash flows freely available to. This is the cash flows freely available to all the equity holders. All the equity holders and debt holders. All the equity holders and the debt holders, all the equity holders and debt holders of the firm. Of the firm. So whatever the cash flow available in the company, every year available for shareholders and debt holders. So that's basically free cash to firm. Okay, so how do we calculate? Earning before interest, tax. Earning before interest, tax and depreciation. Earning before interest and tax, depreciation. Minus depreciation. Then taxation. So you have profit after tax. Profit after tax. Then add back depreciation. Add back depreciation. Capital expenditure investment and working capital investment. Capital expenditure investment and working cash flow or working capital investment. So you might see that this is how you calculate free cash flow firm. EBIT and depreciation, earning before interest, tax. Please remember EBIT mean operating profit. Operating profit. I'm sure all of you all would have gone through financials. In the financial you will see the operating profit. So EBIT represents the operating profit. EBIT and depreciation. So this is before depreciation. Then you minus depreciation. After depreciation, whatever profit you get, on that you pay taxation. So if you want, you can see that here EBIT. Then taxation, then you get profit after tax. Then add back depreciation. Then you will see the minus or you deduct capital expenditure investment, working capital investment. Then get the free cash to firm. Free cash to firm. So this is the free cash flow firm calculation. Now, I would appreciate if you can compare with the free cash flows to equity calculation what we did last class. Your notes might have. Please look at your notes. Free cash flows to equity and free cash flow firm. What is the difference? Can you observe? Free cash flow equity and free cash flow firm. See the difference. Free cash flow firm represents the cash flow available for shareholders and debt holders. Shareholders and debt holders. Free cash flow equity means only cash flow available for shareholders. Since it is only available for shareholders, when you are arriving at, in your working this kind of calculation, you deduct the debt holder's commitment. Debt holder commitment. It can be interest, it can be capital repayment. If you do preference share, you get preference share dividend also. So you deduct all those cash flow and see what is left over. That leftover cash flows is the free cash flow equity. But here, free cash flow firm. This is you are arriving at, final arriving at number or the cash flow is available for shareholder and debt holder. So therefore, you don't deduct the debt holder commitments anywhere here. You don't deduct it. Why? If you deduct it, it's gone. So what we want to find out, how much available. So in order to identify how much available, you don't deduct the debt holder commitments. So you will see that EBIT and depreciation, then you minus depreciation, then you get EBIT, earning before interest tax. Next item ideally is interest. You don't deduct interest. Why? You don't deduct interest or capital repayment because the final number what you want to arrive at is cash flow available for shareholders and debt holders. Which means you should not distribute debt holders' commitment. From this only you will distribute, from this free cash flow. So you want to find out how much cash flow left in the company for shareholders and debt holders. So please be aware that we don't deduct the interest as capital repayment from this arriving cash flows. Then you might see that depreciation we have minus, we have add back. I think the answer would have been mentioned last class also. Why we deduct depreciation here? Actually here it's not about depreciation. In order to calculate taxation, you need to deduct capital allowance. You have to deduct capital allowance. Since we don't know the capital allowance most of the time, what we want to do is we want to take the depreciation as a capital allowance and deduct it. And arrive at the profit liable for tax. On that, we calculate taxation and we add back depreciation. Why we add back depreciation? Because it's not a cash flow item. Because our objective is to calculate free cash flow. So profits have to be converted to cash flow. So normally, profits to convert to cash flow, what you have to do? You have to add back the non-cash item. What is non-cash item? Depreciation. One of the item is depreciation. So you add back depreciation. So why we deduct it here? For the tax purpose, we have to deduct the capital allowance. Since we don't have a capital allowance, we take the depreciation as capital allowance and deduct it from the profits. Then we calculate tax and everything. After that, we add back depreciation because we want to convert the profit into cash flow, we add back. So this is the reason why you add back and minus here. Okay. So this is a free cash to firm. Can you take an example? V limited as earning before interest tax depreciation. V limited as earning before interest tax depreciation of 1 million. V limited as earnings before interest, tax and depreciation of 1 million rupees. Annual depreciation 200,000. Annual depreciation 200,000. Full stop. In the capital structure of the company, there is 14%, there is 14% 500,000 rupees, there is 14%. 500,000 rupees worth debentures. Worth debentures. 14%. 500,000 rupees worth debentures. Full stop. Tax rate 25%. Tax rate 25%. Annual investments in capital expenditure and working capital. Annual investments in capital expenditure and working capital is rupees 200,000. Annual capital expenditure and working capital investment is 200,000. Company's WACC, company's weighted average cost of capital, company's weighted average cost of capital is 15%. Company's weighted average cost of capital 15%. Full stop. Assuming that there is no growth, in the free cash flows, assuming that there is no growth in free cash flows, assuming that there is no growth in free cash flows to the firm, there is no growth in the free cash flows to the firm in the future, there is no growth in the free cash flows in the future, calculate value of the firm, calculate the value of the firm and value of equity. Calculate value of the firm and value of equity. Can you try that, please? So we are calculating the value of firm and value of equity using free cash flows to firm. So this is your format of calculating free cash to firm. Can you please put the numbers and first get the free cash to firm? Then we'll calculate the value of equity and value of firm. So EBIT and depreciation 1 million. EBIT depreciation 1 million. Then the depreciation 200,000. So you deduct the depreciation. That gives you 800,000. Then your taxation is 25%. Tax rate is 25%. So that is 200,000. Then add back your depreciation. Capital expenditure and working capital investment. Capital expenditure and working capital investment is 200,000 both together. So you can write both together 200,000. So you have 600,000 free cash to firm. 600,000 free cash flows to firm. See whether you understand what we have done. EBIT and depreciation given 1 million. Depreciation 200,000. So you minus that. Then EBIT is 800,000. EBIT is 800,000. Taxation 200,000. Taxation 200,000. Then profit after tax 600,000. Add back your depreciation because you want to calculate the cash flows. not the profits, cash flows. So we add back the depreciation, that gets to 800,000. Then the company needs to continuously invest in capital expenditure and working capital in order to grow the company, growth of the future. In order to ensure the profit growth of the future, we invest 200,000. So total free cash flows available is 600,000 per annum. 600,000 per annum. Now we want to value the company in the sense value the firm and value the equity. There are two components, equity and debt. Equity and debt. So we want to value that equity and debt. So we have 600,000. Now say you are talking about year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, like that it goes to infinite period. So this is your future period. So what is the freely available cash flow available in the company? 600,000 year 1. 600,000 year 1. Please write down this. Right? Year 1 you will have, year 1 means end of year 1, you will have 600,000 freely available cash flow. This is available to shareholders and debt holders. Year 2, that also 600,000. Why? They have said no growth. No growth, so 600,000. Again, year 3, 600. Like that it goes for infinite period. So now you need to understand, you are going to have freely available cash flow, 600,000 annually for infinite period. This is the free cash flow available to the firm. Firm means equity holders, debt holder, both will get total 600,000 available for them. Not that we distribute. It's available for them. If you want, you can distribute. So 600,000 is available. Annually, it's available 600,000. So what is the present value? I told you, cash flow based of valuation, always present value of future cash flows. Whether it's a dividend cash flow method or free cash flow method, valuation of the company equals to present value of future cash flow. Present value of future cash flow. Can anyone calculate the number? Present value of the future cash flow. You know the future cash flow, 600,000 each year for infinite period. So what is your present value of future cash flow? Please. $600,000 per annum freely available cash flow, which is belonging to shareholder and debt holder. So what is the value of the company by calculating present value of future cash flow? You need future cash flow, you need the discounting rate or the cost of capital to calculate present value. So future cash flow is 600,000 annually for infinite period. So when you say 600,000 annually for infinite period, that cash flow is called what cash flow? If you are going to get 600,000 each year for infinite period, no growth involved, what do you call that cash flow? $600,000 per annum for future period. Every year you are going to get. What do you call that cash flow? I think there are students in the class. You may be in your village or the hotspots like Nuwara, but still you can contribute. While you enjoy your trip, still you learn. So what do you call that cash flow? If you are getting annual cash flow 600,000 per future period, infinite period, what do you call that cash flow? Every year you are getting 600,000 for infinite period. What is the name of the cash flow? Not sure? There is a cash flow annually you get for infinite period. What do you call that name? I believe you can hear what I am talking. $600,000 per annum freely available cash flows to the firm for infinite periods available, which you call what? Perpetual cash flows. Right? So perpetual cash flow. So if you are talking about perpetual cash flows, present value of perpetual cash flow. How do you calculate? Present value of perpetual cash flow. Any perpetual cash flows present value equals to cash flow divided by discounting rate or cost of capital. So 600,000 is your perpetual cash flow divided by cost of capital. In this case, weighted average cost of capital, which is 15%. 15%. So your value of the company, value of the firm is how much? 4 million is your value of the company or the firm. So value of the firm is 4 million. When I say firm, there are two components, value of equity, value of debt. Value of equity and value of debt. Both together is 4 million. Why? The cash flow belonging to firm. So when you discount by the WACC, what you get, value of firm, which is value of equity plus value of debt. Both together. So firm value is 4 million. That is your first part of the answer. Second part, how much value of equity? How much value of equity? So we know that value of equity and value of debt both together only 4 million. So how much your value of equity? You need to find out how much value of debt. Minus that, then automatically you get value of equity. Debt value, how much debt value? They said in your capital structure means how much your shareholder funds, how much debt holder funds. That is capital structure. We'll learn that short while. Debt holder funds and shareholder funds both together, it becomes the capital structure. Shareholder funds and debt holder funds both together become the capital structure. So what I would like to ask is, if you say your debenture is worth 500,000, that is representing what funds? Equity holder funds or debt holder funds? The answer is debt holder funds. So if you take value of debt is 500,000, that's the debenture's worth. Then automatically out of 4 million, value of debt is 500,000, value of equity is how much? Anybody? How much value of equity? Type करने बोलूँ मैं? I think there is a technical issue on the typing, I believe. Right? If you want, you can unmute and say the number. Unmute and just mention the amount. 4 million is the total value of the firm and value of debt is 500,000. That's the debentures value. How much value of equity? Anyone? Value of equity is how much? So I believe that you have a problem in your technical side of it, so I just write it. 3.5 million. Value of debt is 500,000, value of equity is 3.5 million. Total 4 million is the value. Total 4 million value. So this is a way of calculating the value of the firm using free cash flows. So this is the format you need to calculate your firm valuation. So when you take the case study question, out of 100 marks, we all know there are 3 questions we have in the paper. 25 marks, 2 questions. 50 marks case study. So 50 marks is the largest score as well as the difficult question because there are a lot of areas being tested in one question. So 50 marks question definitely have valuation chapter. Under valuation chapter, it's more or less free cash flow based valuation. More or less. It can be 15 marks or more than 15 marks. Minimum 15 marks you will have free cash flow based or valuation based question. Mostly it's free cash flow. In that, you need to know how to get the value of the company using free cash flows. So it can be a free cash flow firm or free cash flow equity. Most of the time, we will be using this free cash flow firm valuation. Why? Once we do that calculation, we can minus the debt value and get the free cash flow equity. So this is a way of calculating. Very important noting you should know, your cash flows are discounted. Cash flows are discounted by a discounting rate. Now here, the cash flow belonging to shareholder and debt holders. Shareholder and debt holders. Since the cash flow belongs to shareholder, debt holder, the discounting rate or cost of capital also should be representing shareholder and debt holder. Shareholder, debt holder. So how do you get it? Shareholder and debt holder, how do you take it? So what we need to understand, shareholder, debt holders, both together, representing cost of capital is called weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital. That only we used here to discount the cash flows. Then the value what you get is firm valuation. Firm valuation. That represent debt holder value, shareholder value. So debt holder value is, in this case, they are given you 500,000 book value of the debenture, which is equal to market value. Generally, debt capital, we assume book value and market value equal. Unless the examiner tells you to calculate the debt value. Otherwise, you can simply assume debt is book value and market value are equal. So on that basis, 500,000 debt value, 3.5 million value of equity. So you need to, there are two types of cash flow. Free cash flows to firm, free cash to equity. This belonging to shareholders. Belonging to shareholders. This belonging shareholders and debt holders. Shareholders and debt holders. Free cash to equity belonging to shareholders. Free cash to firm belonging to shareholder and debt holders. Then you need to discount using here shareholders only belonging. So you need to have cost of equity. Cost of equity. You can write it. Cost of equity. Cost of equity. Symbol is KE, cost of equity, otherwise cost of equity. Here belonging shareholder, debt holders, so you discount using weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital. That cost represent shareholders and debt holders. Shareholders and debt holders, weighted average cost of capital. Then you get market value, equity plus debt. Market value, equity plus debt. Here you get market value, only equity. Only equity. Can you please take down this? Because this will be very, very, very useful many a time when we discuss in the future. So if you can, maybe highlight, bold it, whatever the way you want to. This page has to be very prominently kept. Free cash to equity, free cash to firm. This belongs to shareholders. This belongs to shareholder debt holders. Debt holder means loan provider or debenture holders. Shareholders, we all know shareholders. Cost of equity, you have to use discounting purposes. Weighted average cost of capital for discounting purposes. Since here you are calculating equity holder value, market value equity, here market value equity plus debt. Please take down this properly. I believe that you all can hear. You all can hear. I believe that all of you can hear. I think there is a problem with the disable. I think there is a disable thing. Can anyone mention whether you are hearing what I am talking?
Yes, we can hear, sir.
Can?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you can hear. I think maybe the typing you can't. I'm not sure why you can't do it, but you have a problem in typing. Okay, let's see. These are the two free cash flow based valuation logics, or maybe the ways of calculating as well as the principle. Free cash equity, free cash to firm. Free cash equity mean your freely available cash flows only for shareholders. Only for shareholders. Here free cash to firm, cash flow belongs to shareholder and debt holder. So the value what you calculate after discounting, also market value of equity, here market value equity plus debt. So please remember, here you are using different cost of capital. If the cash flow belongs to shareholders, your cost of capital is cost of equity. If the cash flow belonging to shareholder and debt holder both, your cost of capital is weighted average cost of capital. So please take this down. Again, I am repeating because I will talk about it many a time in the future. At that time, don't have confusion here. This is basic fundamental we are talking now. This will be used, and that idealize, or maybe you can visualize how the value of the equity will work, how the value of the firm will work. Your mind has to work on that. Right? So when you do a larger question, you might have many number calculations, but still the logic remains the same. This cash flow belongs to shareholder, this cash flow belongs to debt holders. So this differentiation has to be identified at the beginning itself. Okay? So we have looked at many methods of valuation. As I mentioned last class, free cash flow based valuation is the comprehensive method of valuation. Comprehensive method of valuation in the sense you are trying to buy a controlling interest of a company. Right, 51% of the company. You are going to target to buy a company which is 51%. So you want to value that company. When you want to value a company which you are going to get the control, you don't want to value using small methods like discounting cash flow or net assets. No. You want to know how much my value is because I am going to control the whole company. I will put the board of directors. I will decide how to run the company. I will put my strategies. So if we are going to do all that, I would like to take the total cash flow available in the company. That's what this free cash flow method does. Only thing, in order to calculate the market value of a company using free cash flow, you have got to make so many assumptions. Why? These are all freely available cash flow calculation of the future, not the past. Maybe you will take the last year, couple of years financials to start your cash flow calculation. But truly, you need to make so much assumption. Because you have to think, okay, what would be the revenue growth over the next 10 years? What is your expense growth or increase? And how are your strategies going to be planned? Am I going to invest in capital expenditure? As we mentioned in the calculation, you have to plan a capital expenditure regularly. You have to plan working capital investment regularly. So what is going to be finance cost in the market? Right? So how, now if you are talking about the foreign related businesses where your exchange rate is involved, today you know the exchange rates fluctuates, right? So, but it has been depreciating continuously with the $500 million from China. It has got settled down yesterday. But otherwise, it's going upward, or in the sense Sri Lanka rupee depreciating. So, these all will have a future assumptions. You have got to assume and then calculate the number. So, this method of valuation, even though it's very comprehensive, very detailed calculation, a lot of assumptions we all have to decide. Assumptions can vary your value also. Somebody will say, I will take 5% growth in revenue. Somebody will say, no, I took 7% growth in revenue. Somebody will say 25% growth in revenue. So based on your assumption, your value of the company will vary. So that's why we always say, valuation doesn't mean is the amount. You can't say, no, I got the number, this is the right number. No. Please understand, as a professional, we can use valuation methods and we can get different values. All these values can vary. Depends on your assumption. Because these are nothing to do with today's value. It's all about based on future, you are saying today's value. So you can't say today value means if in the market somebody is going to buy your asset, you can say this is the value of the asset. But here we are using methods of valuation to say how much is the reasonable value. So in that process, we have got to make assumptions. These assumptions are sometimes not practical. Because assumption can vary. Now say 2020 January, those who predicted or those who have planned, business plan and forecast and free cash flow, whoever prepared it, how that free cash flow has fared today, 2020 January, that is before COVID-19. At that time, Sri Lanka, we were not aware COVID-19 going to affect us. We thought it's something like another virus, SARS and Ebola and all that. It will affect only certain parts of the world, not Sri Lanka. We are not prone to that kind of issues. That was our mindset at the beginning of January. But unfortunately, in March, we started realizing we are now exception. We are also part of the world. Okay? So we also went through the whole thing, not finished anyway, but we are going through it. So what I would like to say, the person who forecasted free cash flows or any cash flows in January 2020 for next 5 years, now ask him whether your cash flows are realized or realizable at this market condition, this environment. Very rarely you can say yes. Why? The cash flows have changed drastically. Few months, people have closed businesses. But at least you can say other than tourism, most of the other businesses have started doing businesses. Right? Tourism still not, right? But other businesses, we have done business, we have started. You can see the New Year holidays. I'm sure all of you all would have experienced individually how much the sales have been taking place, how much of people have been moving, so that economic activities have been taking place. So in a country point of view, economy point of view, very good thing. We all have to happy about it because we are not a very rich country. We, as you know, that we are developing country and we go through hardships every other day to come out as a country, right? Whether we like it or not, that is a reality. Okay, we have problems. So as a nation, we have problems. So we are slowly coming up. We individually may say, no, we have not borrowed money, but we are, as a country, we have borrowed enough, right? So all of us have to accept it. So these borrowings, we will have for some time, long years. But at least to survive day-to-day basis, people suffered. So this New Year period, I would say, good thing is, people have done businesses. They have done trading. More economic activity have taken place. So when you say economic activity taking place, everybody. If you say you are going to Nuerli is full of Nuerli, then people are complaining, okay, COVID-19, there's a virus spreading, all that, true, it's happening. But to great extent, those people also didn't have businesses, right, for long years. So we need to understand that economy has to take place. At the beginning in March last year, we said, no, close down, lockdown, Facebook and all. I saw that people have been, joined together and asking for lockdown. But okay, so lockdown. Now after a point, people said no lockdown needed because we have to somehow use to this culture of this COVID-19 because this is a reality in the world. So we have to accept it truly because main reason why it's income, nothing else. If all of us can stay at home for 1 year and somebody will give us money to eat and drink and live, no problem, we will stay. But nobody can do that. Nobody can do. Even the big companies can't do that. Right? Maybe a 1 month, survive. 2 months can be survived. Not for the whole year. So we all went through that process. Now we are back to normal, thinking that whether we have corona or not, still we have to go the life as it is, because the risk of death is very, very small or minimal. So we all believe that, okay, thank God, we are in that situation, so we'll go with it. So what I would like to say is, the free cash flow based valuation, when you go to do, lot of assumptions. So these assumptions may or may not be realistic. Right? But still we have to do that valuation. So what we have done, we will assume some of the things and value. May or may not be, we will achieve. May or may not be, we will achieve. That is what we have to understand in valuation concepts. Otherwise, mechanically, we will calculate number and that is the value. But reality, this value will change because the assumption may not be applicable sometime. 2020 January assumption, 2020 May changed. Everyone was worried what's going to happen. So what you need to understand, these cash flows can change. So your valuation, if you say, I did the valuation last year January, 2020 January, and my value is 100 million, and 2020 August, if you are going to value, the 100 million may not be the 100 million. It has to change. That has to be understood, because that has been tested in many case study questions. Examiner wants to see whether you have understanding that these cash flow changes will affect your value. So that has to be understood. Otherwise you think mechanically I put a cash flow, at the number, as I told you the formula, and you calculate value and say 1 billion for value. But the 1 billion is based on assumption. 2-3 months later, if the situation has changed, your future cash flows are going to change. If that is going to change, your value will change. So your Excel working should have these cash flows, and every 6 months you can put it and see what's going to happen to your value. That is why in the stock market, the share prices go up and down daily. Why I go up and down daily? Because the futuristic things are changing. It's not static. It changes. So all of us have to understand what are the value we calculate using any methods of valuation will vary based on various environmental factors, macro factors. Based on the assumption changes, the value changes. So the change is inevitable. Write down somewhere, change is inevitable. Therefore, the value of the business will change accordingly. Can you write down that somewhere? Change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. Therefore, value will change. Value will change regularly. Change is inevitable. Therefore, the value will change regularly. So that's about value of equity or value of shareholders. We have calculated. Now we have a subheading, valuation of debt. Valuation of debt. All methods what we looked at is value of shareholders. Value of shareholders or value of equity. Maybe the free cash flow to firm only we talked about value of equity and debt together. But otherwise all other methods what we have used to calculate value of shareholders or value of equity. Now the heading is valuation of debt. Valuation of debt. So what is valuation of debt? Valuation of debt is we are trying to value the debt capital. Debt capital. If you are talking about bank loan, that's our debt. Bank loan, it's our debt. You don't need to value debt of bank loan. Bank loan debt you don't value. Why? Very straightforward. You have a loan outstanding for which you pay interest. So you don't trade on your debt. You can't trade on your bank loan debt. Right? It can be a very exceptional situation we'll look at later. But mostly at 99.9%, its bank loan is very straightforward. Loan outstanding, capital, interest. So there is no need of valuation of loan. But if you take the debentures are long-term instruments issued by anybody in Sri Lanka. It can be the private sector or government sector. Government sector, if you are issuing long-term debt instrument, it's called bond, treasury bond. If the government has issued the long-term debt instrument to raise money, it's called treasury bond. Treasury bill is 1 year period. Treasury bond is more than 1 year period. Right? So please understand, treasury bond is the government long-term instrument issued to raise money. Government has issued. That is called treasury bond. Debt instrument. If the private sector issued the debt instrument to borrow money, it's called debentures. You can call it bond also, but generally in Sri Lanka we call it debentures. Right? But otherwise, you can say treasury bonds and corporate bonds. Treasury bonds is government issuing, corporate bonds is private sector issuing. Private sector means any corporates. Any corporate can issue a bond. Why they want to issue? They want to raise money for long term, 5 years. In Sri Lanka, generally we have 5 years. No one is going to issue 2-year bond. Not worth it, because the cost of money you are spending to raise the money also has to be earned. So you take 5-year period minimum. But you can have any number of years, there is no restriction. So 5-year period, you can issue the debt instrument and raise money. You issue the debt instrument and raise the money. So what I would like to say is, debentures are long-term debt instruments issued by the private sector companies. It can be banks, it can be normal company, it can be finance company, any corporates. So in Sri Lanka, most of the debenture in the market, you realize it's all banks. Because people also have to have confidence to invest for 5 years. Right? Confidence to invest in 5 years. So 5-year period means a longer period. So Sri Lankans generally mindset is that we don't invest for longer in the banks. Right? So 5 years is a reasonable time period. So therefore debentures are 5-year, yes, you can. You can issue. But you can issue, even though you can issue for any number of years, there are no investor who is willing to invest for longer period. So generally 5 years. So debentures are that. So you have some debentures which can be listed in the stock market or debentures market, like a stock exchange. Debt exchange, you have same stock market environment. You get listed your debenture and you can trade, buy and sell. But very little the trading happens in Sri Lankan market, even though there are listed debentures, very little the trading happens. So when you are trading, you can trade a debenture, then the debenture has a market value. Debenture has a market value. That is where this area comes. Why? If you say a debt instrument which is getting traded, then you need to value the debenture. If a bank loan, no need to value. You go to bank and ask how much my loan, they will tell you value. That's your outstanding. There is no secret there. You can calculate, they can calculate. It's not financial management calculation. Simple loan. You took 1 million loan. I paid 100,000 loan capital installment, 900,000 loan outstanding. Very simple. So there is nothing that you value a debenture or loan. But debenture, you have to value. It can be traded. So how to value? So can you write down under valuation of debt? Valuation of debt. Generally, the valuation of debt is required. Generally, the valuation of debt is required for debentures. Generally, valuation of debt is required for debentures. Valuation of debt is required for debentures, which are long-term debt instruments, issued by private sector organizations. Full stop. Private sector organization. Full stop. The basis of the valuation, is that present value of basis of valuation is that present value of future cash flows. Present value of future cash flows. Full stop. For debt or for debenture, comma, the future cash flows could be interest, comma, capital, redemption value. Capital redemption value. Okay. So when you say debentures, what are the future cash flow you will have in debenture? If I say I am the investor who buys a debenture in the market, that debenture give me cash flows. I bought it today. After I buying, there will be cash flows. So what kind of cash flow I will have? I will have interest cash flows and capital cash. So generally cash flows are those two, interest and capital. Take an example. K Limited has issued rupees 100. K Limited has issued rupees 100 debenture, and the interest rate is 14% per annum. Full stop. Interest is paid annually. And debentures are irredeemable. Irredeemable mean no redemption date. It's an infinite debenture. No redemption date. Irredeemable. Then calculate market value of the debenture. Calculate the market value of the debenture. For an investor. Calculate the market value of the debenture for an investor. Whose required rate of return is 12%. So please note, we are talking about a debenture, 100 rupee debenture, 14% interest. So interest, every year the investor will get 14 rupees. 100 rupee is the value of the debenture or nominal value of the debenture. 14% interest. 14, every year you will pay. Year 0, we assume that interest is paid. Year 0 interest is paid already. So we don't have to worry about it. So future interest, Year 1, year 2, year 3, infinite period. No redemption date. Irredeemable debenture. Irredeemable debenture. 14 rupee interest. 14 rupee interest. No redemption date. So, an investor whose RRR is 12%. That means required rate of return of the investor is 12%. He wants to value the debenture. He wants to value the debenture. So, investor who wants to value the debenture, whose required rate of return is 12%, we are supposed to calculate market value of the debenture. Market value, if you want, you can say X interest, always valuations are X. That means current year dividend, current year interest is not considered. Okay, but if you say your current year interest is not paid, you add it together separately and the cum interest value. So X interest, present value of future cash flow. This is the way of calculating. Please take down. Market value of debt equals to present value of future cash flow. Present value of future cash flow. Market value of the debenture equals to present value of future cash flow. Present value of future cash flow. Present value of future cash flow. So you need to find out what is my future cash flow. We have interest. As an investor, if I buy the debenture, annually I get 14 rupee interest. How long? Infinite period. Not 1 year, 2 year. Infinite period, I get annual interest 14. Capital, what happens? Nothing. No capital repayment. It's an infinite period. Till I live, I will get annual interest of 14. Or till somebody holds the debenture, he will get the 14 rupee interest. That's basically the infinite, irredeemable debenture assumption. So what is my cash flow going to be? 14 for infinite period. So if I want to calculate present value of future interest, 14 is my cash flow, no growth like dividend. Cash flow divided by 12. Cash flow divided by 12. 12 is my investor cost of capital, required rate of return. How much the value? How much? Anyone? Is it working? Typing is working? No. Okay. Anyway, 14 rupees annual interest. Present value of the 14 rupees for annual period, you divide by what? Required rate of return or the cost of capital, which is coming to how much? 116.67. 116.67. So debenture is worth, valuable, 116.67. Irredeemable debenture worth 116.67. So this is basically the valuation of debenture. Valuation of debenture. Here we have assumed the debenture is irredeemable. So value of the debenture 116.67. Next line. Calculate value of the same debenture. Calculate value of the same debenture. Calculate value of the same debenture. Calculate the value of the same debenture for an investor whose required rate of return, calculate the same debenture, value of the same debenture for an investor whose required rate of return is 15% per annum. Whose required rate of return is 15% per annum. Can we please calculate that? Same debenture. So the interest cash flow don't change. Same debenture, interest cash flow don't change. The required rate of return of the investor is changing. Required rate of return of the investor is changing. So how much is that? Required rate of return of the investor is changing. So required rate of return of the investor is how much? 15%. So can you calculate 14 divided by 15% how much? Anybody? 14%, 14% or 14 interest divided by 14 divided by 15. Fourteen divided by 15 is 93.3. 93.3. 93.3. So this is your market value of debenture for another investor whose required rate of return is 15%. Now see, same debenture is valued differently for two different return requirements. So return requirement, required rate of return of the investor and the market value. If your required rate of an investor is 12%, your value is 116.67. Required rate of return of the investor is 15%, your market value is 93.3. 93.3. Now see, 12% required rate of return, same debenture cash flow, market value 116.67. 15% required rate of return, same debenture, same cash flows, market value 93.3. So what do you understand? Can you identify the relationship here? 12% required rate of return, you want 12% return, then your debenture, whatever relevant cash flows, if you discount, your market value 116. If your required rate of return become 15, your market value 93.3. Which means required rate of return and market value as what relationship? Inverse or opposite relationship. Inverse or opposite relationship. Inverse or opposite relationship. So please understand, required rate of return and market value as opposite relationship. In other words, same debenture will be valued higher for an investor whose return requirements are lower. Same debenture will be valued lower for an investor whose required rate of return is higher. It's opposite relationship. I think when we did the valuation chapter also, I showed you dividend cash flow based valuation. I gave you the example where I said required rate of return and your market value, what is the relationship? Same negative relationship. Same negative relationship. So keep in mind, same debenture in the market, when the market required rate of return of the investor is changing, value will change. Value will change. Again, value will change. Okay? Take another example. Another example. 5-year redeemable, 5-year redeemable, rupees 1000 nominal value debenture, 5-year redeemable, rupees 1000 nominal value debenture, offers 12% per annum interest. 12% per annum interest. 5-year, 1,000 rupee nominal value debenture offers 12% per annum interest. Calculate the market value of the debenture. Calculate the market value of the debenture for an investor. Calculate the market value of the debenture for an investor whose RRR. Calculate the market value of the debenture for an investor whose RRR is 10% per annum. Whose RRR is 10% per annum. Can you try that? So we have 5-year debenture and we are not talking about infinite period, only 5 years. So year 0, as I mentioned, nothing is mentioned, interest paid already, we assume that interest is paid already. So you have interest 12 rupee or 1,000 rupee in debenture. So 120, 120, 120, 120. 5-year interest. 1,000 rupees is your nominal value of the debenture. 12% is your interest they are offering. So 120 rupees every year you get for 5 years as an investor. Then the capital. Compared to earlier, we have said debenture is infinite. But here the debenture is having a maturity period, 5-year maturity period. So what is your maturity amount? You will get end of 5 year, 1,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees. If they are not mentioning any premium or discount to the premium or discount to the maturity value, you take the nominal value which is 1,000. So these are your cash flow you are going to get in the debenture. So please calculate the market value x interest, present value of future cash flows. Present value of future cash flows. So your cash flows, year 1 to year 5, 120, only 5 years. End of 5 year, 1,000. And the investor we talked about, his required rate of return, investor required rate of return is 10% per annum. Can anybody calculate? Year 1 to 5, 120 cash flow. You multiply your 120 by 5-year annuity factor and you add it together with the 1,000 rupee 5-year discount factor. That gives you a market value of debenture. Can please calculate? So market value equals to 120 into annuity factor 10%, 5 years plus 1,000 multiplied by discounting factor 10%, 5 years. How much a market value? Can anybody calculate and share the number? See whether you can share. Please share the number. 120 is the annual interest, 5 year you are going to get. So present value of future cash flow, these are future. So 120 into 5-year discount annuity factor, then 1,000 rupees is your maturity period value, that into 5-year discounting factor. 1,000. I don't think you will get so much higher number. I think 1,300 can't be the answer. 1,075. Please double check your number. I have mentioned you the whole working. 120 is your interest annual. That is your future year 1 to year 5. 120 into annuity factor, 5-year annuity factor. 10% required rate of return, 5 years. Calculate annuity factor. Multiply by 120 plus 1000 is your maturity value. 1000 into 5-year discounting factor. So how much the value you get? Present value of future cash flow. Present value of future cash flows. Can everyone do that? You can calculate and share. 1075 I got. I don't know whether the right number. Please double check. Can another person also share so that I can make sure that 1075 is right? $75.8. So the number is 1075.8. That's the market value of the debenture for an investor whose required rate of return is 10%. So for an investor whose required rate of return is 10%, for redeemable debenture, value is 1075. So how do you calculate? How do you calculate present value of future cash flows? If you redeemable debenture, you have annual interest for 5-year period, very specified period, and at the maturity 5-year end, you get the value. In this case, I have given you no extra information about your maturity debenture value. But sometimes your debenture can be redeemed at a premium. Not the nominal value 1000, it can be more than 1000. But otherwise, if you don't mention anything, the examiner doesn't mention anything, just take the nominal value as your redemption value. If you redeemable debenture. So present value of future cash flow again is the base to calculate valuation of debt. Valuation of debt. Irredeemable debenture, how to calculate. Redeemable debenture, how to calculate, we understand here. Okay? Another example. M Limited issued 100 rupee debenture. M Limited issued 100 rupee debenture with a 5-year period. Interest 10% per annum. Interest 10% per annum. Tax rate of the investor 14%. 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 Calculate the value of the debenture. Calculate the value of the debenture for an investor. Calculate the value of the debenture for an investor whose RRR is 9%. Whose RRR is 9% after tax. Whose RRR is 9% after tax. Stop. Assume last year interest is paid. Assume last year interest is paid. So can you please get a number? Same calculation, only the tax is there. So what you will do? Year 1, 2, 3, year 4, year 5. It's a redeemable debenture. Year 0, we don't worry about it, it's already paid. This is your interest amount. This is your tax amount. This is your net amount. Then you have capital repayment. Right? So interest amount, how much we said? 10% debenture. So 10% means 10 rupee debenture interest you get. 10, 10, 10, 5 years. Then taxation, 14%, that is 1.4 is your tax. As an investor, you get interest of 10%, but you have to pay tax of 1.4 to inland revenue. So net amount you get 8.6. Actually, your income is going to be 8.6. Even though company will pay debenture 10 rupee interest, you, end of the day, what you are receiving, net cash flow, 8.6. Capital redemption, same 100, 5 years. And the required rate of return of the investor, after tax, 9%. How much your market value? Market value, X interest, how much? Present value of future cash flow. Can anybody calculate and tell me? Gross interest, 10%. But for which you have to pay tax. So your net cash flow is only 8.6. So 8.6 for 5 years. $98 point. Please double check. Few others also do that calculation. $98.44. So this is how you calculate value of debt. Value of debt when you are given redeemable debenture, irredeemable debenture, tax is considered, how you calculate market value of debenture. Sometimes your debenture can pay you half yearly interval interest. Not only annual interest, they can pay you half yearly intervals. So if it is half yearly interval, the same 5 year become 10 year, 10 periods. 6 months interval, 10 periods. So same thing, you put the cash flow, discount by the required rate of return according to 6 month period. If it is say 9% is your 1 year rate, if you are in 6 month interval, you are going to get interest, 4.5 will be a discounting rate, 4.5. So that's basically the difference. So this is how you calculate valuation of debt. Valuation of debt. So you would have realized that the present value of future cash flows, present value of future cash flows is the key magic calculation. Present value of future cash flow is the key magic calculation which will give you the value of thing. Value of thing. So you and me, although if we want to value ourselves, what we have to do, we have to forecast our future cash flows. Whatever we can generate future cash flows from us. You and me should have that confidence of how much your cash flow can generate. Put your cash flow from today, say 25 years if you are talking, 25 to say 75 years, 50 years of cash flows. Not like corporate where indefinite cash flows. Here individual. So you have lifetime. So you have 50 years, say for example, cash flows you forecast, discount your future cash flows. And see what is the value. That's your value. That is your value. Individually the value differ. Why? Each one will generate cash flow different to the other person. So those who are very much confident of themselves, they are self-confident and they are seeing future very clearly. They are very much kind of focused and very clear in terms of their growth and the future. Those people will have larger value. Why? They know that that cash flow can be generated. And those who think, no, I'm not very confident, I think that my cash flow will be limited to 50 to 100,000, maybe 5 years down the road I will become 200,000, very limited cash flows, you will see that your value is lower. So it's all magic of how much cash flow you can generate from yourself. So that cash flow no one is going to give you, that is you create that cash flow. You creating means your confident level, self-confident level of generating that cash flow. That will be your value. So now you would have realized today, the valuation principle tells us how much our value is. So that tells us how much our value means, how much value we can create. Not that only just calculating. If I say, somebody say that, okay, year 1 to 5 or year 1 to, say like goes to 75 years, I can say 1.2 million, my annual cash flow. 100,000 rupees per month now. Year 5, I will say, okay, my cash flow will be 5 million. 10, somebody say 10 million. So if it is going like this, you know how much your value is, market value. Present value of all this cash flow. People who are very conservative, we are not confident enough, will have a lower number. 0.6 million now, 5 years down the road, 2.4 million, 10 years down the road, 4.8 million, slowly. Then your value is low. So now you need to understand, you decide your value. You decide your value. If everyone after learning this, if you can think that my 75 years, this is my cash flow going to be, my worth is today, say 10 million or 100 million or billion. You can think that and you can decide that these future cash flows will determine my value. So these cash flows, I can work towards that to get this value. If I say my value come to 10 million, is it my value 10 million? Am I okay to achieve? Am I satisfied with the 10 million worth for me? No, I don't. Then what I do? What if they have, what if I have very risky investment? All the investments, future cash flow when you forecast, I think the investment appraisal we studied, the risk component we brought in the calculation, various ways we brought in, right? You can do that.